Hey, welcome into the Epicenter, where we're going to continue exploring what does it look like to be the epicenter of the boom. Hey, welcome back into the Epicenter. My name is Keith Tugett. I'm joined once again by Roswell Smith Jr.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing today, man?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Got a guest in the house?
We got a guest in the house, man. Mr. Blake Buchanan, owner
the Bahama Bucks.
of Bahama Bucks.
Yeah, I have that
founder.
distinct privilege sometimes.
Yeah,
Depends who's
absolutely.
asking, I guess.
Yeah, so greatest snow on earth, is that right?
That is right. That's right. That's what we claim. That's what we strive
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah, that's trademark though, right?
That is. That's a registered trademark. We
So-
actually own that. Us in Utah.
Wow.
So who knew? That's cool, right?
Who knew? Yeah, that's right.
And when the product is good, it actually, helps the name because, it really is some of the greatest stuff you'll ever have.
Well, thank you.
No doubt. Thank you, man.
We appreciate it.
Man, yeah. First time I ever had Bahama Bucks, I was in college, just started kicking at tech and all that stuff, and found Bahama Bucks, and I was like, man, I'm a sugar dude, So, like, I was all in all the way, and then the way I met you, I think it was in 2003, as I've kind of processed
That's right.
back and thought through. 2003, me and my parents show up to Tokyo. To go eat, not Tokyo, Japan, like the restaurant
Right,
Tokyo,
yeah.
right? It was like a little place,
Japanese, yeah.
Japanese steakhouse, kind of set up, and we sit down. It's one of those awkward deals where you get sat with another family that you
That's
don't even
right.
know, and so we sit down, and my dad, he had the gift of gab, and man, he just started talking, and you can talk as well, and
Absolutely.
you and my dad hit it off.
Instant connection.
did.
Yeah,
Wow,
there was
that's
a
cool.
connection,
Yeah.
and he, you figured out that I played football at Tech, and you had your three
three
sons,
sons there,
yeah,
yeah.
and they were little.
They were enamored. They knew who you were.
Yeah,
Hey,
so
Yeah, I think you kicked field goal or missed one, so they remember.
yeah, that's right, man.
Anyway.
Hey, we're a hero or a go,
Oh,
man. It
man.
never fails.
That's
so,
right.
You do what you do,
Golly.
but I remember, my dad, I think, asked, well, what do you do? And he said, well, I own Bahama Bucks, and I instantly, man, I was
Perked up.
Oh yeah, I was in. I was like, whoa. I was more impressed that you own Bahama Bucks than I think your kids were with the
I
fact
don't know,
that
they were pretty impressed you were a kicker at Texas Tech, man. That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah, it
That
was
a big
a
deal.
pretty big deal back then.
Yeah.
The glory days.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right,
Hopefully
bro.
we can get back to it. We need to get back to it. Come on, boys.
Ooh.
So what I want to do today, though, is I want you to share your story about how you got into the business, and then just the whole gamut of what you've been through. You've owned it now for how many years?
We just celebrated our 30th year. We're going into our 31st year.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're really excited about that. A lot of rich history in that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's fun to come on and share with you guys and kind of share the story a little bit.
Yeah, we had. I remember even back in the days whenever you guys were living at your parents' pool house. I think, and I didn't understand completely what was going on. You're going to share that today.
I am?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I don't often share that story.
now
so
you
I
know.
wanna-
Now you know.
I see where this is going. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
Man.
It was powerful, but
is good.
but I didn't understand really at the time. I just came over to play with your kids because I remember
Yeah.
you were like, "Hey, would you ever be willing to come over and just play with the kids?" And all that stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So in those days, it's still today, NCAA rules. I had to get a compliance sign off and all that kind of stuff just to
Yeah.
go over and play with your kids. But it was a great time. But I remember your family so distinctly, and that time as well. But the joy that you guys had.
Yeah.
And now that I know the whole story, it's even more amazing to me that joy that was just coming out of you and Kippy and those kids, because that was actually some very challenging times.
Yeah, those were a tough seasons. They were sweet seasons, though.
Yeah.
It was a really sweet season.
Yeah. So dive into your story. Tell us a little bit about how Bahama Bucks began, and we're just going to sit back and listen.
Before I dive in, it's funny that we made that connection because I was enamored with him, and I've got three sons that you're trying to raise superheroes and raise good, godly men
Right.
and all that. And when I could surround them by other men, and I just saw Keith, he had a great desire, love the Lord, love kids,
Right.
and I was like, man, I need him to come over and just spend some time with my boys.
pour
And
into
so,
him a little bit.
yeah, we invited him over. You came, and I think we swam and we did some stuff, barbecued and whatever, and just so impressed with Keith. So it's funny because those moments with mentoring men and people that walk alongside your sons are so important. you were a fantastic athlete, and you encouraged my kids, and one of them went on to run track at Tech, and so we kept the Raider tradition
Very
going
cool.
on.
Very cool.
They were part of that NCAA.
He could fly.
Yeah, the Big 12 championship.
What did he run? What's his event?
He's Jet Buchanan. He was the mid-distance guy, so he was an 800.
Oh, man, yeah, that's a hard race.
No, he did not get it from me. It's all his mama. His mom she has the speed, the endurance, and all that to run the race.
Very cool.
But even, my oldest son, Zyler, he is a huge Texas Tech fan, and part of it was those early games we went and watched you guys. And my youngest son, he's at Texas Tech right now. The other two have graduated, and so we're tried and true. And a lot of it is just meeting men that have walked that path that they could admire. So thank you. So where we meet in our story is kind of interesting because I always like to talk about Bahama Bucks because there's really several parts to it. And I like to tell people this is our 30th year, but I really put two back-to-back bad decades together. People talk about a bad year or a bad season. Man, I had two back-to-back bad decades. And not that we didn't have great people and great people that we worked with and all that, but it really was a challenge getting a young business off the ground. How I ended up back in Lubbock, well, I started in Lubbock, but started Bahama Bucks when I was a sophomore in college, just as a college job, and invited friends to work with me. And it's funny because some of the way we work together still, we always say, hey, you work with us, not for us. And we still have that neat vibe in our culture and who we are. But as our story progresses, we started looking at it, I graduate from college with a finance degree, move out to Phoenix, Arizona, take a broker position out there. From there, I get this idea, let's keep Bahama Bucks going. I mean, it's 100+ degrees. It's fantastic out there.
Right.
I'm like, who wouldn't want a snow shack out here? So we dived into that. I get married right around then, moved Kippy out, my wife Kippy, out to Phoenix, and we start our journey. And my business partner, Eric Lee, came from college or from Texas Tech, and he joined in that fight. And we just didn't know what we didn't know. We're like, man, I love the sweetness of this because I told Eric at the time, he wasn't a business partner. I said, man, if you and Dad will partner with me, I was like, man, in 5 years, now I'm 4, let's go 5 years, we'll have 100 stores. Now, I am 22 years old, and I'm doing the math thinking, this is going to be great. And I didn't know the Lord was going to take us on another journey because truly it took me 20 years to get 20 stores. And that growth track really looked like this, very slow and steady with a lot of heartache and ups and downs in it. And there's a lot of fun stories in it, but you kind of fast forward. My business partner, Eric, he lost his wife in a tragic car accident. We all decided to move back to Lubbock, set our roots here. And it was just kind of a turning point. And I'll never forget looking at that man who was just crushed by that tragic event. He had a 9-month-old baby. And we kind of made a promise. My father and I got together and we just said, man, we'll do whatever it takes. You take a year off. We're going to keep paying you, but you take a year off. Now, there's barely enough money to pay any of us, so it probably wasn't my wisest thought, but ended up selling the house, eating the equity, went back to my dad, said, hey, y'all got a small guest house in the back room there, or in the back of your house. Could I live there? Could I move my 3 boys in there and live there? And I said, Dad, it'll only be temporary. And the famous words my wife remembers, which is so accurate because I was so full of pride. I looked at her, as we walked into that house, and I said, this will be strictly temporary. And she now knows to get a definition on strictly temporary. Now, the interesting thing about this story is because the Lord had a lot of growth for us in that time. We laid a lot of foundation. He worked out a lot of issues with us as a couple, as a family, as a man, and worked out a lot of pride issues in me.
Right.
But I'll never forget because my sons were 6'4" and 1-ish. When we held their hands and walked into that little guest house, and I say strictly temporary, and when we moved out after we had finally sold some franchises and got the business on its feet, when we move out, I take my boys and I take my oldest and we go get his driver's license. And the Lord had us there for right at a decade. working out all this. And I'm going to tell you guys, you're going to swallow a lot of pride. And, for us to invite Keith over and say, man, just come hang with us, we really didn't care at that point. We were just living life, having a great time, and doing what we did. So that kind of walk that we had to walk to really help Bahama Bucks get on its feet and make those sacrifices isn't something I think everyone's called to do. But for us, we just knew we had this yearning and this desire to really bless others. And we felt our vehicle to do that was through our snow. We wanted to be the world's greatest snow, but we were called to bless others.
Yeah.
And so we, made those sacrifices. So essentially, my wife and I, we blew our 20s, blew our 30s waiting on this. And when I turned 40, a little after, we finally opened 20 stores.
Right. Wow.
And you're just like, Lord, I thought you had so much more for this awesomeness. And, he worked all that out.
Yeah.
So
he has a good way of doing that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really does. So that's our story. Now you fast forward 20 years to get 20 stores. The next 10, we open a little, we have over 100 stores. We're 100 plus now. We're from Puerto Rico all the way to California, everywhere in between. And so it's really been exciting to see not only what the Lord's done, but how He's honored our faithfulness, and He's really honored that grit and persistence, and we're so grateful. And so you meet any of my kids, you meet my wife, you're going to see a heart of gratitude, because those kids, they shared a tiny room with a single bathroom, growing up and until Zyler was old enough to get a driver's license, and to this day they're thick as thieves. Those three are quarter three.
You told your story, I'd never heard that, so that's powerful, man. Just honored to hear it. I thought about this one particular theme or idea. You had a plan, right? But what I'm hearing, we all have plans, right? Exactly. I mean, it's the old saying, man proposes, God disposes, right?
Yeah, that's so good.
But what I really want to point at this point is just you had a plan, but God was after more than the idea. And what I'm hearing is that really even experiencing the snow, right, and how good it is, and the location in Houston by my parents' house, right? And my kids have tasted it. I got a 3 and a 6-year-old. It's the brand of Bahama Bucks. And Keith, you can speak to this too. The branding that I felt like, man, only God could have produced through you guys, man, through that story. Folks know, man. Folks remember when they have it. And it goes before you. So that's something I just want to point out for our listeners that, man, this thing is more than just an idea or a business model, right? Yeah. There's a real brand at work here, right? Would you say that?
I would totally agree. I think I've heard you actually share this story a couple of different times, and one of the things that you talked about was we don't just sell snow cones; we actually sell dreams, right?
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Well, how we say it, and this happened several years ago, and the Lord kind of pressed on my heart. We have a great leadership team at Bahama Bucks, so I don't want to claim every idea, but one of the things that I felt the Lord telling us, and it was kind of a bold statement, we have an annual event every year called Snow Summit, where we bring all the franchisees in, and it's our opportunity to share, train, show new ideas, the new products for the year and all of that. And I stood on stage, and it was one of the most bold statements I've probably ever made. And I said, I needed everybody to hear me. We are no longer in the snow business. We are not in the snow business. We're in the people business.
Come on.
We're going to serve all. We're going to love all, because we're in the people business. Wow. And so when you kind of shift your brand in that direction, and you start seeing who you really are and what the impact you're having in these small, tiny moments with people, you give them a glimpse of hope during the day. It's a kind of what we call a mini vacation, where they can come in, get a reprieve, they get refreshed. And that's really what I felt our calling was. And so, taking those next few years to kind of pivot our company towards, hey, we bless and we refresh others. That's our calling. That's our calling. We bless and we refresh. And we're not great. I mean, we fail often. Don't get me wrong. But the heart behind it is with our Avalanche crew members, which is our team or our staff members in shops. That's what they're called to do. They know one thing: we bless our guests. And how do we take that to the next level? Man. Now, it's one of those things. Again, we're not perfect at it. We're not perfect people, but we're working towards that and striving all the time to really be in the people business.
That's good.
So how that culture, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people, they look at a Chick-fil-A and they think, man, the culture is so good. Or, they look at some of these different things. Like, talk to me a little bit about the culture of Bahama Bucks and how were you able to get everybody to buy into that? Hey, we refresh and we bless people. Yeah. How did you get that buy-in from your team?
I think a couple of things, and let me give credit because you bring up Chick-fil-A. They are a role model of ours. We look at what Dan and Truett Cathy have done and just the systems they've put into play. But like you say, their culture is deep, and that's what we really wanted, a deep culture. But you can look at them and say, wow, that's a great role model, but you still have to find your voice and be who you are called to be. And I think when we started explaining that culture, number one, it always starts with a clear vision. And our clear vision is simple from top to bottom. Everyone can restate it. Everyone says it all the time. You say, what does Bahama Bucks do? What's our vision? They say, bless our guest. We bless our guest. Now, we'll add to it by creating the ultimate tropical dessert experience. We want that portion too. But the heart of it is bless our guests. So when you lead with that, when your meeting's open with that, when everything you write goes towards that, you're going to attract, kind of like attracts like. You're going to attract those type of people. And those that aren't into that and they don't want to be a part of it, a lot of times they'll self-exit.
Sure.
But culture is one of those things that I really feel you have to be intentional about. You have to be focused, especially in your leadership teams, of knowing, hey, we're serving. We serve all, we love all, we're in the people business. How do we make that look? So there's strategy to it, but there's also that vision piece that you have to have.
Wow. Let me also lob one up to you. Great direction on that's good, because I think this is really where I felt like Keith and I were trying to figure what message is being sent to our viewers right now with this conversation. Culture, deep culture. You use the word deep culture. In business, language shapes that culture, right? Whether it's bad or good, what's being said matters. Words really do matter.
Yeah, they do.
But when your culture is deep, I would love for you to speak about how it's not easy, how hard that is. Talk about and share if you can pull a few stories or even a few things that speak to that. Man, we got this language from hard times. This didn't come just from some cheesecake vibe right there. This came from hardness. Talk about that.
I think you use a good word because it's not often, I don't know that I've ever shared this anywhere else, but I feel those early years when we spent 10 years in a guest home, we were really forged by fire. Where if you're going to harden steel, you're going to get it white hot. And then it's going and you're going to cool it real fast. It's going to temper, but it'll hold an edge for a long time. And I think that's one thing just for our family, but for the Bahama Bucks family is when they know, hey, our leader and other people have been forged by fire, that they don't waver. That our vision, our values, and our purpose all completely align. And whether we're having a successful year or we're having a down year, which in retail sales, you're going to ride that wave. But when they see that consistency throughout the leadership, that, hey, here's what we believe, here's where we're going. And I think that really helps establish that culture. But it does. It has this hardening effect that people know, okay, he won't waver. Now, was it hard? Absolutely. We've had bad staff members. We've had bad years. We've had, franchisees do wrong things, and we've misstepped in areas too. Again, it's not a perfect process, but it is that, baby step growth of always moving in that right direction until you really get, where you feel your culture needs to be. And we still haven't arrived. I think it's one of those things that we're constantly striving for with our franchisees, because it was one thing when I had a team of 10 people. That's fairly easy. But now, coast to coast, you have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people buying into your vision. You really got to say, okay, is this tried and true? Does it work? And a lot of that it's been forged in fire. We've tested it plenty. The model works as far as our values and our consistencies and who we are.
Oh yeah, there's transparency too. I mean, and how you talk about these stories, and you're sharing about how it wasn't easy. And I mean, Keith went through some of this with the home building company, which is a whole different. But that's true. It rings true when you have a good product. It's important for your thousands of employees or donors or your board, right, to look at you and say, man, that's real. That's not artificial. It's not pretend, right? I think in this world now we're living in, even before a pandemic, I think there's a real hunger and thirst for give me something authentic.
Yeah, sure. I
don't want to follow a brand that's fake and pretend stuff, but and so you have to be authentic and you got to be vulnerable. And I think I'm seeing it in you, man. I'm just hearing the story for the first time. I mean, I've been eating a snow cone now for about 20 years. I mean, and it's man, to be for me personally now full circle, it really does resonate, man, and just. praise God, bro, that you were faithful when it mattered the most.
Sure.
And you didn't quit,
Yeah.
which I think is a twofold. Even for people who don't believe in, Jesus or don't ascribe to that faith, this is valuable because they look at you and say, man, this cat's been through it.
Sure.
He been through the mud. So I know a lot of folks, man, back in D.C. and the old stomping ground for you too, this is a powerful, valuable message.
Sure.
And so, yeah, man, just good stuff all the way around.
What kept you, because you had set goals, right? You said, we're going to have 20 stores in 5 years, 4 years. No, I'll give myself an extra year.
I said 100.
Or 100. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Totally.
He went big, bro.
Yeah, it was 20 after 20. Yeah, 100.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100. So, 5 years in, how many did you have at that point?
5 years, I was probably sitting at 4 or 5 stores.
4 or 5 stores.
Yeah.
So you're
And
96 short.
Yeah.
95 short.
And we knew break even for us was going to be 20, 25 stores to even be a franchise. So
Yeah.
I'm not just not making money, I am losing money that I don't have.
Yeah.
So I'm digging this hole, and there's a certain point where you're looking at it and say, well, do I stop digging? I mean, because I can never dig out of this if I'm not careful. But, kind of alluding to your question of, what kept the persistence, what going, part of it was, Kippy, my wife, she bought it. You have to be one accord on this. And I'm going to tell you, there were times we were as far as east and west on some things. I mean, we had some dark moments in our marriage where we just didn't agree on certain things. But I'll say this, the respect and the love and the kindness that she showed through that season allowed me to keep pushing on. Yeah. And there were times where, in any relationship, you may be down and your spouse is going to have to carry it for a little while too. Right. But we really were committed to a couple of things. Number one, we knew we wanted to raise our family in the best way we could. We wanted, if what we considered successful is if our all 3 grown children grow up, marry amazing people and love the Lord, then man, we did our job.
Right.
And that really didn't have a bearing on whether I made money or not.
Yeah.
But what we also looked at is what was the impact of Bahama Bucks? And it wasn't that it was just a total failure. It's like you would see a glimpse of hope. You would sell a franchise. You would open an amazing store. And then you would see a city where they didn't even know about you. And the thing would just explode. And you'd have these lines. And you're like, it's working. We just couldn't get it fast enough.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like those singer-songwriters on American Idol or anywhere else where, they've been in a bar forever and they just don't get the exposure, right? And they get one shot on the camera and now they make it. And we didn't really have one shot because my track was like that, right? But as we had opened into certain cities, it would create growth in that city. And then we'd do another state, another city, and then it just really allowed us to grow. And we're looking back, hindsight's everything. We're so thankful of the track that the Lord had us on because of the foundation it laid. We have one of the best support teams you could ever hope to meet. I mean, our culture, our support, our systems are tried and true. They're solid. And it was because we had time to figure out, okay, that's not working, alter it. That's not working, alter it. So we were tinkering the whole way, and we still do. And so I think it's neat, especially that, when you look back and say, Lord, thank you for not letting us give up because, Kippy and I, there's probably 2 or 3 dark moments where we're like, this is not worth it, Lord. Yeah. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Are we Job? Whatever your analogy is. And I think everyone through a marriage, through a business, and you don't have to be an entrepreneur to go through that, will have those really gut check moments. And there are times to quit things. There are times to quit things. We just never felt the release. I'd be like, Lord, just send me another way. Now, I say that I was working double jobs. On occasion, I'd work 2 or 3 jobs to keep it alive. But we just never felt the release to let it go.
Yeah. And so you just prayerfully just kept taking it back to the Lord, and He just never released you from it. I mean, and so you're probably sitting there like,
I was just trying to get out of the guest house, gentlemen. I already know what I'm
going. Fulfill what you told your wife you were going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And funny story, we moved into our house. We're early 40s. Finally get a house. Kippy was so thrilled. She was a cheerleader at Tech, and she's a great gymnast and all that. Wow. And she hadn't done this in years, but she was so excited. She's like, when we get our house, I'm going to do a cartwheel. And it was so funny. We get in the house, we close the deal, we're in there. She does a cartwheel, and it cost me $100 of chiropractic treatment. I was like, really? That was our first invention.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So, but she was so excited.
Full of wisdom, man. You said something about 5 minutes ago. Used the words, "We haven't arrived yet."
Sure.
Which to me, it spoke volumes to me, and I think for a lot of our viewers as well. I'm sure that when you see a growth in a company, and you see it become profitable in ways you didn't imagine, you look at the idea of like taking your foot off the gas and saying, man, we made it, which you hear it a lot of times, right?
Sure.
In the marketplace, we made it. Well, what I'm hearing from you though is that, no, man, we're just still learning. We're just still going. I think that's a valuable lesson. If anything, could you speak to like maybe pull out 2 or 3 like powerful like, nuggets for like just the idea of like not arriving but staying teachable, even though you've like had success, staying humble in a humble posture. Just kind of give us some of that, man. There's just such wisdom in that.
We really believe that you're going to work hard, you want to stay humble, and you want to do the right thing.
Right.
And for us, I don't know that we'll ever really feel we've arrived, just like in anything that you venture to do that you want to be great at, because there's always so much more we can be doing. And every year I'm amazed because we're going to come out. Even last year, we had great snow inventions. We did bomb pop, which was fantastic. We did a gummy bear snow, which just packed gummy bears everywhere. And I ate
kids
that.
love that one,
It got
by the
me through COVID.
Mind
Man. I ate
blown.
that.
Hold on, back. You going too fast.
And
Bomb pop.
Bomb pop, where
Explain
we actually
that.
Bomb pop is a wonderful popsicle. It's a red, white, and blue, and it's a white lime, it's cherry, and it's a blue raspberry. And we had contacted the company that produces them. Fantastic people. They sent out a sensory agent who tests all of our flavors because we're a flavor factory, right? And we mimicked it, but we'll jam a bomb pop in that thing, and it went crazy.
Explosive. Wow.
It just went crazy. And so there's always, we have all these ideas that we want to bring to market within our brand lane, right?
Right.
And we're so excited about it. And it's for the first time, we've got a great R&D team. Early on, Kippy, Eric, myself, and the folks, you're the janitor, you're the inventor, you're
All
doing the
hats.
books, you wear it all. And now we actually have a full-time R&D team. And we're like,
That's
and they're
all
doing
they
some
do.
amazing things. We're like,
Yeah.
wow, who thought of that? That's a good, that's a nice point to leverage.
Yeah.
So I just think it's that really thirst to always stay hungry, to always grow, and know that you really never have arrived, because there is so much more we can do with our teams and our staffs and just how we serve the guests and everything. We're still trying to perfect the model, and we'll never get it perfected, but we just want to always be serving excellence to everybody. One of the big challenges we had in being a people business, because if you say you're a people business, well, what do you serve?
Right.
And this was so important because a few years back we said we serve 3 things. We serve honor, dignity, and respect.
Okay.
And if you can leave, if we have every guest leave with those 3 things, honor, dignity, and respect, regardless if we messed up your snow, regardless of how we handle it, if we'll handle every situation with honor, dignity, and respect, then we know we've got to win.
Yeah.
And that's what we ranked some things on. So I think as you enter the season of COVID and some of these things, when you have those founding principles, and you look at COVID and everything that happened, you say, okay, nothing changes. We're still going to serve honor, dignity, and respect, no matter how it works out. We're still going to be a people business. We're going to love all and serve all, and we're called to create connections.
No doubt.
We want people to come in, create a remarkable memory, in a safe and healthy environment and all that. So I think that really helps you when you look at, okay, we have a higher calling, we have a higher purpose in what we're doing. Then that's what we're striving for. And we just always know there's always so much more we can do.
Yeah.
Always so much more we can do. So that keeps us hungry.
Good stuff, man. Wow. Thank you.
Talk to me about that higher calling. And I know you're so deeply rooted in your faith.
Sure.
And we've talked about before, like being a booming business or advancing the kingdom through what you do. But so much of what you speak of comes straight out of biblical principles and all those kind of things. Kind of talk about your faith, how you work it out in the workplace, along with how it helps you develop some of those. I like to call those like pillars, right? The things, the 3 that you were talking about. Those are pillars that help support the whole thing. So hit on that a little bit.
So I think part of when you look at who you are, there's really not a Christian Blake and a work Blake, or a Christian Muhammad Bucks and a non-Christian. It's just your whole being. So I really don't know how to separate it. But what I know that we strive to do, that we felt in our lives was important, instead of talking the talk, just walk the walk. I mean, think about it. If I can get 3,500 Avalanche crew on the daily to believe we bless our guest, that's really serving others, right? That's really the highest form of leadership they could ever achieve to, is just bless our guests, see and serve others. And so I don't know that we have really ever separated it. You walk into our office, you're going to feel this wonderful vibe. You walk into our shops, it's a wonderful vibe. And part of that, I think, is just an extension of our beliefs. and who we are and
Right.
what we believe, and we just don't know how to separate it.
That's
You
so
know,
good.
we don't shy away from it. We don't go out and put it on every billboard and everything like that. But what I think most people that respect, even those, we will have haters out there as well. But what they want is, and this is so true, and you mentioned it earlier, where people want you to be transparent. They want you to be real.
Right.
If you're going to be a Christian, then be a Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Be a Christian and be a good one.
Right.
Same thing. If you're going to be an atheist, be an atheist. Be all in.
Yeah.
But don't say you're an atheist
Come on,
and then do something else. Or don't be a Christian and then do something else. Now, again, we're in an imperfect world. We're imperfect
We're not
people.
going to be perfect at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our thing is, when we feel called, and all of our teams know this, we serve all, we love all, we serve all. And so that is it's a huge challenge, because yes, we're going to get angry guests. We're not going to have a good day. We're going to misstep. But I think when you boil it all down, it's really, can you walk the walk? And it's just a matter of just walking it out. And again, my wife would tell you, I am no saint. By golly, she's still got a lot of work to do on my heart. She is the Holy Spirit. Right?
Hey, look.
And she's getting it worked out in me, but we'll get there.
Hey, man, listen, bro, that what you're speaking to, I think, is so valuable. Thank you for lobbing that up to him, because it really, I mean, in the last couple of days, you've experienced it as well in your line of work, what you do daily. We hear this like coming up. Guys are trying to really figure out the balance. And the answer really is, man, it's not really a balance at all. You can't separate the two of them.
Yeah.
You got to be doing it or let it go. But you can't teeter on both.
Yeah.
Because you end up hurting yourself and hurting all those around you. And that's really, I think, important for like viewers to hear, and even just for Keith out of here. We're rookies in this game, and we're younger. And so I long to see men and hear from men like yourself model the Rick Beaton Bowls of the city, and
Sure.
I've got a guy up in Virginia, Nigel Adams. I mean, strong mentor, about the same age as you, just real experienced in life and in ministry. And it's just, you can't separate them, man. And I think that's really what a lot of these kids coming up behind us, this generation, these Z's and millennials, they so crave that.
Sure.
To the point to where they will walk away from money and walk away from platform just to get the authenticity that we're talking about right now. So it's just a lot, man. And when you talk about faith and values, you got some people who are just looking, okay, Christian, show me. If you can show me an example that's real and consistent, I'll follow it. Yeah. And that's the honest to God truth. Yeah. They don't give them the terminology and theology is their orthopraxy, how you walk out of what you say you believe in.
Sure.
It's are you really living this out? And that's something that we're really challenged right now, I think, even in the church.
Sure.
With getting our hands around this and really being about what we say we're about.
That's true.
And you see it in business, you see it in community, you see it in your neighborhood, right? And it's all around us, and we really can't escape it. So that's really valuable. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and it is one of those things. I think it is one of the most challenging. But our teams, what we have found is when we can be authentic, when we can really be who we are, when we say, hey, we're going to live these values, honor, dignity, and respect, and whether we're firing you, whether we're hiring you, you're going to see living examples of that. What it has created, and I couldn't be more proud of our support center at Bahama Bucks and our teams there. But not only that, our franchisees.
Right.
Franchisees and franchisors sometimes can be an adversarial relationship. But we're still going to move forward with honor, dignity, and respect. And what we've seen is it's created this brand family that we call a Bahama Bucks family now. And not all of us are Christians. I mean, we've got all walks, we've got all, shapes, sizes, whatever. And I got to tell you, it is so neat when you can take a room full of different walks of life, different beliefs, put them into there. And we've got one goal. We're going to see and serve others well. We're going to love all, serve all. We're going to serve honor, dignity, and respect. We're going to be in people business. Whether you're a Christian or not, you're buying into that. Because it preaches.
That's real.
And it really is the gospel in a short form.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
So, again, we're not perfect at it.
Hey, that's all right.
We're working, man. We're working.
I'll say the same thing. Like when we're building houses, I'm like, man, we're going to strive for perfection. Now we're starting with imperfect people and imperfect materials, and so we're going to get as close as we can to that. But you got to understand, and that's one of the things even with Boom that we look at is we want to have this network of booming businesses that are going out and making impact in their communities and just doing business different, the kingdom way, and people begin to say, why is it like that? How did you come up with this? Or man, just God just poured into me, and I just truly have latched on to the teachings of Jesus or all those things, and I just want to model that because that's what I'm called to do as a disciple maker, is to model that so that people want to come and follow and be a part of this thing, right? And so, man, I just so have greatly appreciated our relationship over the years. It's kind of, it's not like we're like the best of friends.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate
that. But you know what I mean. You know,
I got you.
But
He's not inviting me over for barbecues. I had him over. See how it rolls?
Yeah. But man, we get your Christmas letter every year. We connect throughout the year 2 to 3 times. We're both busy doing our thing.
Yeah.
But one thing I can always point to is number one, y'all's kindness, your generosity that I see coming out of that company. I remember even coming to you as I was leaving the restaurant business, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about getting out of the restaurant business. We want to start a home building company." And I said, "But I can't start a home building company, and there's no salary. I don't have anything, you know. So could I come work for you?" And you said, "Man," I said, "but I'm going to be building houses as we go. If I could just go, you know, around lunchtime, whatever, check on the houses." And I'll never forget. You said, "Man, I never want to stop an entrepreneur from being able to go accomplish what they want to accomplish." Wow. And you said, "I just need 1 year out of you. You give me a solid year, and then if the time is right, y'all launch off, then go," right?
Cool.
Now, what ended up happening is I ended up staying at Battery Joe because I was in this little transition, but I was so grateful for people who were just willing to pour into me and mentor me. And I think that's one of my big cries, is that as business leaders, we would mentor the next generation or those coming up and say, "Man, I see it in you. Come be a part of this, and let's go do this thing."
You know, and it's funny you say that, because even in my current business, because you look at it, and I still sit in a CEO, founder, driver seat, and it's been impactful. But what we're seeing is that next tier leadership coming up that's doing it so much better than we are. You know, and we really want to be a legacy brand that we continue to grow, that it grows beyond me. And so we have those strategies as well as what does an exit strategy look like one day, and those type of things. And for Kippy, who works right alongside me, my wife, she's like, "Oh, first grandkid, I'm out," right? So I've got a short window with her, and she teases because she's so integral.
And now Zyler just got married, right?
He just got married,
like
man.
this summer,
he just
right?
got married.
Any day now.
That's what we're hoping. Like, go make more people.
That's right.
More people in this family.
That's right. Come on.
So, but you know, it is one, and I'm encouraged by you saying that, because it is about raising up the next leader and raising up the next people. And I think that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of at Bahama Bucks, is our ability to not just within the support center hire and raise up people, but also look across the brand and talk to franchise owners and say, "Hey, what managers are doing well? Who's doing well?" And we've had wonderful instances of bringing those in. And they just excel in our company, and they rise through the ranks. And you've got these type of people that have great experience from shop level all the way up, or they brought experience from other companies. And it's that next tier leadership that'll really get Bahama Bucks to that next level. So that's what I think is most exciting, is when you see people that have embrace the values, embrace the vision of Bahama Bucks, and they love it as much as you do, whether they're at the support center with us in leadership or they're a franchisee. But it's like you say, it really is multiplying, you know, the resources that you've had and putting it into others as you multiply the people, and they just carry it forward for you. So
that's incredible.
It's been a blessing to see that watch. We got some great people.
Well, man, I just want to thank you for your time today, man.
No doubt,
Getting to hear your story. Every time I hear it, I always pull something new out of it.
I know.
How's it going, bro? I've heard.
That's because I changed my story, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we didn't even touch on like half of it, you know? I mean, there's so much more that's there, and there's so much depth. Yeah, we'll have to get them in for part two.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah, overcoming adversity and just, man, just how you've just kept going and kept the faith, and never doubted God, even whenever.
I doubted him. I got mad at him too, but
sure. Let's say this.
10-year long run, man. We had some fist fights.
How about never quitting God? How about
there
that?
We go.
I
didn't quit him, but
you didn't quit him.
I thought about it, but
man. No, man, thank you, man.
He's a little bigger than I am. So
that's right. That's right.
Thank you for your transparency, man. Keith is right too, man. The example you set, it really is. I say this humbly and carefully, you know, one to look at and say, man, that's cool. I would love at some point to have a business like that.
Thank you.
because it's real, it's authentic, and I think the last piece you said, you're giving it away. You're multiplying it through people, not just to people. So that's really powerful, man.
Well,
it's good stuff, man. You're welcome. Thank you, man, for coming on.
Man, enjoyed having you. We will.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
brother.
we'll
Always a
definitely
pleasure.
catch up soon. Maybe we'll become those BFFs,
Yeah,
right?
maybe you have me over for a barbecue.
man, that's right.
Maybe
Get
I'll
over
have you
there.
over for a barbecue.
Get your temper back up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, man, we appreciate you coming on.
you,
Make sure to tune in for our next one, and in the meantime, go out, be the epicenter of the boom. If you liked what you heard today on The Epicenter, be sure and click that subscribe button down below and click the bell so that you're notified whenever we drop new content. Also, be sure to connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And know that you can find all of our episodes on your favorite platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now go out, be the epicenter of the boom.